Yo peeps, Mischief here. Welcome to the Conspiracy Cupboard. Today we're going to be looking into Avi Loeb and his discoveries under the ocean of possible alien technology that's crashed here, and a look at the Tunguska event and the impact it caused and what devastation it ensued, and near-Earth objects. What danger do they pose to us, and what's the chances of them hitting us again? Let's get into this, shall we, people? Cue the title sequence. There we go. So, Avi Loeb then. He is a Harvard University astrophysicist who has basically been searching for a space rock that came down over the Pacific Ocean. Now, they've managed to track it on the trajectory that it came in at, and they found pieces, or what they believe to be fragments, of this meteorite that came in. Avi Loeb believes it could possibly be some kind of alien technology, some part of a spaceship maybe, that came in from outside the solar system and basically crashed in the sea, in the ocean. Now they've managed to find 50 tiny spherules of, as you can see here, of some kind of iron ore. This is what he believes to be the only thing left from it impacting onto the atmosphere and then crashing into the sea. Now, they found this by dragging a huge magnet across the ocean floor. And it's fascinating how they actually managed to track all this down and the possibilities of what this could uncover. Now, they said basically that it contains mostly iron and some other particles. So I've got an interview to play for you in a second with Avi Loeb. And he's basically going to just tell you what's going on and what he's doing at the moment. So here we go, hand it over to Avi.
The pair recovered 50 unusual iron spheres that they believe were able to withstand 4 times the pressure that would typically destroy an ordinary iron metal meteor. So what does it mean? Could the object actually be what they call artificial in origin and maybe even part of an interstellar spacecraft? Joining me now is Professor Avi Loeb, also known as the alien hunter of Harvard, who made this discovery alongside astrophysics students Amir Siraj. Thank you so much for being with us, Avi. I got to say, it's exciting to talk to someone with the nickname Alien Hunter of Harvard. But this is serious. I mean, I know they've been searching for years. How can you be sure that this is the object that crashed back in 2014?
Well, first we localized the path of this meteor, and we used the seismometer data in Manus Island, Papua New Guinea. We found the distance where the explosion took off based on the time delay between the signal of light that was detected by US government sensors and the signal of sound that was detected by this seismometer. And we went there with a ship and we searched that area. We crisscrossed that region of about 10 kilometers in size. And we found most of the spherules along the path that we anticipated. And that is already tentative evidence. We plan to examine the material composition of the relics that we found. These are basically metallic spheres, marbles that we found on the ocean floor, roughly a millimeter in size. I just received the FedEx package with those spherules. You can see one of them right here in my hand. It's tiny in a vial, roughly a millimeter in size, a milligram in mass. And they are the molten droplets of the surface of this object that we found. And we plan to examine what they're made of, what kind of radioactive isotopes they carry, and by that demonstrate that they are from outside the solar system. And of course, the first evidence we had for that is the high speed of this object, above the escape speed from the solar system. So clearly, it seems like it came from far away. And the question is it natural or maybe artificial in origin?
Well, that's interesting you bring that up when you say artificial. Of course, a lot of people, when they hear this, they immediately start thinking of aliens, UFOs. Is there a chance that this is part of like a non-human craft or something like that?
In principle, yes, because the material strength of this object was higher than all space rocks that NASA cataloged over the past decade. 272 of them, including iron meteorites. And moreover, this object was moving faster than 95% of all stars in the vicinity of the sun. So there is a possibility that it was propelled by some rocket and that it was made of some alloy like steel that made it tougher than all the space rocks that we are familiar with. And to find out, we just need to examine the spherules, these marbles of metal that we found on the ocean floor. They were very challenging to find because they are the size of the head of a pin. And we surveyed the region 10 kilometers in size using a magnetic sled, a sled with magnets attached to it, but we found them. So now the next step is to analyze them with the best instruments that the world has to offer, that we have at Harvard University.
So Harvard will do the analysis right there at the university?
Yes. In fact, I just received the materials. They are in my office right now. And tomorrow we are planning to distribute them to various instruments where we will figure out what they're made of in terms of elements, in terms of radioactive isotopes, compare those to solar system objects, and figure out whether there is any trace of an alloy or some kind of rare elements that you don't find at high concentrations in nature.
How long do you think it'll take to figure it out? I mean, will you be releasing a report soon saying whether or not this, in fact, may have come from like an alien craft?
It's a matter of weeks. Within the coming weeks, by the end of July, I hope to know the answer. And, it may well be a rock of a natural origin, but one thing is clear, it came from outside the solar system, and therefore it could be from a completely different environment. It's the first time that humans put their hands, and here I am putting my hand on material that was associated with a big object that came from outside the solar system.
Well, I was going to ask you, Avi, is it weird having them in your office right now? I mean, not really knowing what they are? I mean, is there a potential that they could be dangerous? Or it's got to be kind of strange. You're just like, they just got FedExed into you.
Well, there is no risk. We checked them for any excess radioactivity, and we couldn't find any risk. So it's just mostly iron. But there are trace elements that we plan to figure out. And, they sat on the ocean floor for almost a decade, and we now recovered them in a heroic scientific effort. And of course, if they appear to be sufficiently unusual, we will go back to that site and look for a big piece of the original object, because it would be easy to tell whether it's a rock or some kind of a technological gadget. And of course, if it's a gadget, it might have buttons on it. And the fundamental question is, should we press a button?
So as you can see there then, it's off the coast of Papua New Guinea, where the meteor IM-1 possibly crashed in 2014, and they are doing the retrieval, as you can see there. And he's just literally received those. So that video was from, I believe it was yesterday. So he's literally just received those. So they'll be testing them as we speak. And who knows what they'll uncover. Maybe they'll find some material that we don't have on this planet. Maybe they'll find out that it was manufactured or something. Or it could just possibly be a meteor. But the fact that it's come from outside our solar system is a big lure to me. And the reason for that is that we have things like a Moa that came into our solar system. And we've got people that speak out about this, professors, that are putting their careers on the line to say that, look, the Moa came into our solar system and sped up, changed the trajectory and left. It shouldn't have done what it did. That looks like some kind of, I don't know, solar sail ship, possibly, or some kind of ship that's under control and that turned and left the vicinity of our solar system. So going from a Moa and things that we know about that, we know that we have impacts on this planet on a regular basis. Now, Now, the Tunguska event is probably the last time in our recent history that we can see the effects of a major impact. And this impact actually happened in the atmosphere. It didn't even hit the ground. So the Tunguska event then was an enormous explosion that is estimated to have occurred at 7:14 a.m. on the 30th of June 1908 at an altitude of 5 to 10 kilometers. That is 15,000 to 30,000 feet. And from there, it flattened some 2,000 square kilometers, nearly 500,000 acres, including more than 100 square kilometers of pine forest near Pontokelmenia Tunguska River in central Siberia. And as you can see, I've got the photos up here for you of the devastation that it caused. And this would have taken out, I mean, if this happened over a city, this is why I'm covering this, because that 2,000 square kilometers, that's 500,000 acres. That is the centre of London gone. The whole centre of London wiped out from an overhead explosion. Now, the energy of the explosion is estimated to have been equivalent to the explosive force of as much as 15 megatons of TNT, 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Japan on August 6, 1945. Now, that is some scary power. That just shows us that the power of nature and the power of our solar system and the power of the universe. Now, these near-Earth objects that we get alerted to all the time from NASA should terrify you in some ways. This should be the thing that actually unites humanity. You know, we shouldn't be worried about the threats from us. We should be worried about the threats from space. And I'm not just talking about, you know, aliens or anything, you know, coming down. I'm on about actual aliens, ships that are out there, which is huge asteroids, meteorites, you know, flying towards us, which they do. Now, luckily in our solar system, we have Jupiter and other big bodies that slow a lot of these asteroids down, or take a lot of these asteroids in and, you know, absorb them into them. So they never really reach down here. But the Tunguska event it's terrifying. It's so fortunate that it happened where it did. I mean, Siberia, there's not many people that live there. The area that it impacted over, I think there's hardly anyone in that area at all. And luckily with the expanse that it did, I mean, like I say, if this would have happened over London, Paris, New York, they're gone. Completely gone. And as you can see, there's an area still where the trees just won't grow back from the main impact of where it happened overhead. I mean, this happened overhead. Overhead. Didn't even reach the ground. So, on the basis of historical records of a significant non-coalescent cloud developed in the skies over Europe following the event, some scientists contend that a comet caused the explosion. Such clouds are thought to be the result of a sudden influx of ice crystals into the upper atmosphere, such as those that have been triggered by a rapid vaporization of a comet. Other scientists maintain that the event was caused by an asteroid, a large meteorite, or a large meteoroid perhaps, 50 to 100 meters, maybe 150 to 300 feet in diameter, and having a stony or carbonous composition. Objects of this size are estimated to collide with Earth once every few hundred years on average. That is terrifying. It seems to me that we're overdue for some kind of impact like this. And this brings me on to another subject which I'll be covering again, which is the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. And Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson's theory on this. And it's not out of the realms of possibilities. All it takes is something like this to happen over the ice sheet, and you've vaporized 2 million, 200,000 square acres of land there instantaneously, and you've just created a massive wall of water. This took out 1,000 million trees, just everywhere in that 2,000 radius, the 500,000 acres that it took out, and has left an impact crater without actually impacting where nothing will now grow. So, because the object exploded in the atmosphere high above the Earth's surface, it created a fireball and a blast wave, but no impact crater. The only likely remains of the object that have been found are small fragments, each less than a millimetre across. So it's similar to the sort of microspherules that they're finding at the moment from this impact in the sea, from this object that came from what he thinks is outside the Kuiper Belt, outside our solar system, and impacted down. So the radiant energy from such an explosion would be enough to ignite forests, but the subsequent blast wave would quickly overtake the fires and extinguish them. Thus, the tunguska blast charred the forest but did not produce a subsequent fire. So you're going to get charred to death in an instant and then put out straight away. So you'd be cooked to a crisp on the outside, still a little bit raw and tender on the inside. Maybe need a little bit more doing to you. Turning on a spit, maybe another 10-15 minutes or so, and you might be ready to eat. So because of the remoteness of the site, the explosion was first investigated from 1927 to 1930 in expeditions led by Soviet scientist Leonid Kulik. Around the epicenter, the location of the ground directly below the explosion, Kulik found felled, splintered trees lying radiantly for some 15 to 30 kilometers, 10 to 20 miles. Everything had been devastated and scorched, and very little was growing 2 decades after the event. The epicenter was easy to pinpoint because the felled trees all pointed away from it at the spot. Wow. I mean, that is just... You think how high this thing exploded in the sky. It's terrifying at the minute thinking about it going off over a city, because, that is more powerful than Hiroshima. You just, boom, gone. You wouldn't even know about it. The first thing you'd know is just a bang and then dead. Completely gone. So, investigators observed a marshy bog, but no crater. Eyewitnesses who had observed the event from a distance spoke of a fireball lighting the horizon, followed by trembling ground and hot winds, strong enough to throw people down and shake buildings, as in an earthquake. At the time, seismologists in Western Europe recorded seismic waves from the blast. The blast had been initially visible from about 800 kilometres, 500 miles away, and because the object vaporised, gases were dispersed into the atmosphere, thus causing an abnormally bright nighttime for skies in Europe. Sorry, there's a cat on my roof, I do apologise. Site investigations were later then performed by Soviet scientists in 1958 through to 1961 by an Italian-Russian expedition in 1999. So, I mean, this impact, well, it wasn't even an impact, was it? It impact on the atmosphere created the massive mega cloud. It lasted for days. Visibility was poor in the area. We've got the impact crater that's never been sort of healed. You had the trees still pointing out from where it exploded above. It's a terrifying event, and what gets me is that they don't put enough emphasis on stopping these things. I mean, it was last year where NASA and that have been out and tried to move an asteroid. It's the first time that they've done it. Why are more people not putting money into this? We need, systems to stop these things, or not just to detect them, because by the time you detected them, it's too late. It is honestly too late. I don't want to scare the crap out of anyone, but the detection systems basically get them when they're pretty much already there, and there's that many objects in our solar system especially, that you can't track them. There's no way to track them all. Some of them must be from a fallen planet from outside, or maybe that's what the Kuiper Belt is, an unformed planet or something that exploded billions of years ago. We also had this object outside the solar system. I know it's going off on a tangent. Nibiru, Planet X, whatever you want to call it. There is something out there. So that pulls a lot of objects as well in from, out of stellar space. But for something, you've got to think about this. For something to come from interstellar space to here, it's got to be on a perfect trajectory. Because space, Goes up, down, left, right, all over. There is no right way around in space. There isn't. You just there, your orientation. This is what is going to be so hard for us to comprehend, you know, when you're trying to deal with things like these UFOs, you know, these UAPs. If you can control something that goes into space, you've got to remember there's 5 dimensions to it. You know, it goes off in a million directions. It's not one thing. So for something to come here, it's either been targeted here, or, you know, it's just a fluke. But it's incredible, the work that they're doing, and, you know, hopefully it will make people focus on things like this. The Tunguska event happened, you know, 1908, and it's a long time ago, and people think, oh yeah, but it's just over 100 years. It's not that long back. And if, like I say, if this happened over a city, that city's gone. Nothing at all will remain of it. So, I hope I've not terrified you all too much with that. But yeah, if you want to look a bit more into the Tunguska event, there's a lot more information about it, loads of research articles on it, you know, what they've been finding, the kind of meteorite fragments that they've been picking up and stuff. And like I say, they're not massive, you know, but then again, from that kind of explosion, I don't think there'd be much left, really. And like they said, they went back, 20 years after the event, because they couldn't get out there to go and investigate it because of the remoteness of the location. And they found that nothing was growing in this bloody spot. Everything's still knocked over like it is today. You know, you've got a water basin and just a big cleared area. So, terrifying. Right, guys. So, I'm going to be following up on Avi Loeb as more information comes out, because that is just brilliant, isn't it? You know, the fact that they managed to track this object down to where it's come in, and you know, now pick up and find microspherules, which lends credence as well to things like the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. It does all things like this lend credence to that hypothesis. And I strongly believe that something happened 12,000 years ago to start off the Younger Dryas event, and possibly ended a civilization, which is what I'm going to be getting into on one of my next videos, is the ancient civilization and the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. Looking into Graham Hancock's work and my own thoughts on it, and giving my own musings about it. So I hope you enjoyed this quick episode. It's something I've been looking to cover for a while. I'm going to be doing some more things, like I say, as things come in from Avi Loeb, and anything else we get about near-Earth objects, or you know, the mission that actually went to move one of these things to see whether this actually works, and what could we possibly do to avoid being hit, and you know, the technologies that they're employing. So look out for that video coming. And bloody cats absolutely everywhere. Terrible. So yeah, if you've got any videos that you'd like me to do, any topics you want me to cover, I'm going to be doing more on the UAP topic, obviously, and you know, the revelations that have been coming out from there, and obviously covering more from 1944, 1961, and old UFO sightings, and a lot more from the UK as well. Like I say, I was hoping to get one of my first guests up for a podcast. He's a little bit shy, unfortunately, so I might have to wait for that one. But I've got some more things lined up, hopefully, so we can get some decent conversation going, and I could do not just only episodic videos like this, but something where we can have a discussion, and I can share my views with people, and I can get their views, and we could talk about many other different things, and like I say, possibilities of people seeing ghosts and aliens and UFOs along with the conversation that we're having. So until next time, this has been Mischief, signing off. Yeah!